On this week's show, Running It Back with Dustin DeVan from Ediphi. All right, Nathan Wood, coming off of Halloween, freshly shaven. Was that for the costume, my friend?
Yeah, I still think I have some metallic on my face from the, yes, I was the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz.
Awesome.
The kids were Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion. So, we had some fun.
Good deal. Get rid of all the candy already. Hide it somewhere so the kids can't get it.
It's so hard to resist. We put it up high, but just high enough that I can reach it. So it needs to be like one row higher.
If you have kids listening in, this is the time to block them out for a second so they don't know. But we have this thing in our family. We call it the Great Pumpkin. And the Great Pumpkin comes the night of Halloween. You get to keep your candy a little bit. And the Great Pumpkin comes and takes candy to needy children who didn't get to trick or treat. And that's how I get it out of the house. And I go drop it at a local Starbucks or somewhere for their bowl out front and let it go. Get it out of the house. So that's a little tip for you.
One of my best friends, they do the exact same thing. They call it the Candy Fairy instead of the Golden Pumpkin. But
yeah.
Switch witch is another term. Yes. But all ways to get rid of the candy.
All of it to keep the candy away from who? Us. And that voice you hear there, if you're in the car, is Dustin DeVan. Dustin, what's happening, man?
Not much. Just living the dream for the second time.
Yeah, we'll get into that, right? So before we do, we're back on YouTube. So get to youtube.com/the ConTech Crew. As my good friend Tanis likes me to say, smash the subscribe button and get those shorts. They're getting a lot of play these days. Are you trying to reach the innovators and decision makers in construction technology? Then look no further than sponsoring the ConTech Crew. That's right, we're taking new advertisers. Email us at advertising@thecontechcrew.com to learn more. All right, we're back. So Dustin, running it back.
Mm-hmm.
This is round 2. You had a successful run through construction tech, and well, misery loves company, glutton for punishment. I don't know what it is, but you're going to run it back. Before we talk about where you're running it back, give everybody listening in a little background on you.
Sure. So, yes, I actually started as a general contractor. I actually didn't mean to get into construction. I studied mechanical and aeronautical engineering, had no idea what I wanted to do after I graduated. So I took a job with a very large contractor called Bechtel. I worked for them for a year. They wanted to ship me off to Libya, and I didn't want to go to Libya. I knew an executive at a construction company working on an $80 million MOB for Kaiser, and he agreed to take me on, and I worked in as a GC for the next 5 years. While I was working there, I had moved to Palo Alto, and it was circa 2010 and 11, and so really got ingrained in the startup culture. I mean, I was living in a hacker house essentially with like 6 other people. And so you start thinking and reflecting on the industries and I came up with a concept for a company called BuildingConnected. So that was 2010. It wasn't until 2012 that I quit my job, and it was a long road, but that company ended up doing okay.
Yeah, just did a little bit. Yeah,
did a little bit.
I remember something in the hundreds of something of It was you did okay. You did okay. It's all in the news. You can look it up.
Yeah.
But it was grounded though in BuildingConnected was grounding in bidding, right? One of pretty much, close to the earliest phases of the project life cycle as possible from a construction perspective, right?
Right. So BuildingConnected was invitation to bid software. The high level thesis was all the other invitation to bid tools required you to maintain a contact database. And instead of maintaining a contact database, we wanted to create a network to facilitate communication so that you never had to update any subcontractor information, right? And the subcontractors could receive, anyone using BuildingConnected, all their bid invites in one location. It's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to understand in concept than it is to execute in practice. But we did a really good job, I think, by in terms of both end results and quality of product we built. So I'm very, very proud of that company. Very proud of all the employees that work there. Still very, very good friends with most of them.
Yeah, it was a successful exit to Autodesk. So Autodesk acquired the company. When did they acquire the company?
We closed in January of 2019. It was actually like 2 weeks right after PlanGrid closed. We were running parallel acquisition process, or they were. Autodesk was.
That's an interesting one. I remember that covering it from here. It was like there was the run on it. Autodesk was out there and rolling.
Well, the funny thing was, I didn't know that they were buying PlanGrid. I didn't find out that they were buying PlanGrid until like a week before it was announced.
Wow. Well, I mean, publicly traded company, right? They got to keep secrets. So obviously they kept it secret. So you did some time at Autodesk, kind of made sure you stewarded the product through to where it's now integrated into their suite. What have you been up to since?
Well, first, I was required to spend time at Autodesk as part of the acquisition.
No, financially required.
Financially required. If you want to make all the money, you get all the rewards at the time you put in. Any acquisition is going to require you to spend time. Post Autodesk, I actually still had a non-compete in construction tech, so I didn't jump right back into construction tech. I actually tried to do a hardware software company, which I would not recommend to anyone ever, because hardware is hard, and that's a saying, and it's a saying for a reason. That went really well until it didn't. We grew from 4 million to 21 million in sales. We got to 5 million a month of run rate, and then the supply chain shock in 22 just like destroyed us. Our BOM cost more than doubled. We could hardly source components. It was the Wild West then. I'd have to call like brokers in China that like bought up a bunch of parts, and then you'd have to like negotiate with them. It was crazy. So that company grew like a rocket ship and came back to the earth the same way. And then so when I left, and this is 22, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I got connected. I got connected with Suffolk Technologies, and then ultimately started Ediphi. And there's a whole story there. But I joined Suffolk Technologies, which is a venture fund, which was started by Suffolk Construction. And when I joined there, Suffolk Construction was actually working on solving what I think's the most important thing we actually do in construction is preconstruction. And it's because if you build the right project plan, it's very easy to execute the project. And if you have the wrong project plan, it's very easy for the project to get out of control really quickly. And if anyone attends conferences, people talk about it all the time. It's very cost effective to make changes in pre-construction. It's very costly to make changes in construction. So that's why I say pre-con is the most important part. So Suffolk was building their own internal tooling. And I started working with the guy, Mike Navarro, who's now my co-founder, on what their strategy was and making sure that we aligned. And ultimately, Mike and I spun out a company and bought the IP, which is now Ediphi.
I think you're absolutely right. Great planning. However, except, this is your second run back here, this is your running it back story, but you've stayed up there. Most of the tools that we see are coming the other direction, even though I feel like you might be a little bit jaded because, you go to those thinking planning's a good thing, but most of the tooling set comes from the other direction, right? It doesn't come from here.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I've come up with a lot of like concepts. You actually see like a lot of like billing or financial products now coming to market, but
yeah,
you still see a lot of stuff in the field. And I think it's just because more people play in that space. And then it's a lot easier for people outside of construction to build financial products because you need less domain knowledge. And then I also think that very few people understand pre-con, and even people in the industry. Like a lot of people think pre-con is taking a set of drawings, quantifying what's in them, and coming up with a cost, and that's it. And it's just so much more.
I mean, I have to ask because having attempted to do this and watching DPR try and do this, the whole idea of building a truly accurate historical cost database is way easier said than done. Any insights into how the heck you do that?
Well, first you have to move to the cloud, which all of our competitors are not in the cloud. They're actually desktop applications. So once you get to the cloud, it's actually quite analogous to some of the stuff that we did with BuildingConnected and try to create a network. Yeah.
But not a less of a network of people, but a network, or is it a network of people? I mean, yeah, like you say network, but that's totally different, right?
Well, it depends on what you're meaning by historical costs. Is it on the line item level on how cost is trending from project to project, or is it how you're using benchmark data? And so I'll talk about benchmark data actually, because I think it's the one people think of most. It's like a client, because you're going to use that benchmark data. A client says, "Hey, I want to look at this multifamily development. Can you show me, based upon some benchmark projects, some historical projects, what this might cost?" And the hardest thing to do is actually have data that you can um, normalize. And I'll give you in context. You could easily pull up 3 apartment complexes, but one apartment complex might have mixed use and underground parking. One multifamily might have some other additives, and it might have a fountain, might have a gym. And so usually those costs aren't broken out so that you can compare just the use group of that apartment complex. Like, what was the cost per unit of just the apartment complex? And so that was one of the things that was one of the things Mike and Ediphi actually said we want to solve. And people used to try to solve it with what they call WBS, which is these sort fields, except there's no standardization. Anyone can add a sort field across any project in any database. And we've created a whole new mechanism for how you allocate cost across a use group, so that when you benchmark, you can actually just compare the apartments of any apartment, regardless of if they have underground parking or retail or a gym or something else.
Yeah, so you're basically decoupling and breaking out those different. I mean, and at that point, it's probably not a CSI division. It's probably, or it'd be like
It's its own classification.
yeah, because it's a much higher level classification of just these larger building blocks. But then you've got the whole concept of, because in the BIM world, it's like you plan it one way and then you actually build it, and then you do that historical comparison of like plan versus actual.
Yeah.
Because it seems like historically pre-con has always been, well, what are my previous pre-con jobs? What did I estimate? But not all of them necessarily are comparing what the actuals are. Are you even dabbling in that at all?
So yeah, I mean, I think what we really want in construction is, what did we estimate it for? What did we buy it for? And then what did we build it for? Right. I think those are the 3 big data points you can argue along the way. Right now, we are just focused on what did we estimate it for and what did we buy it for, and then we want to bridge that gap for what did we build it for. But we do have APIs that you could access that technically a customer can bridge that easier than we can. But yeah, that would be the ultimate goal. The problem with data, and you guys know this, of what you build it for, is you also have to understand, well, why did those numbers change?
Yes.
Right? Because you're going to start with a contract. Was it an owner directive change order? Like what drove that? What drove 25% over budget on that one?
And yeah, the categorization of change. Because I mean, you answered the question perfectly. As you know, I love anything APIs, interoperability, kind of round tripping things. So yeah, you gave the perfect answer of, like it could be a Procore or a Sage or something down the road that's actually keeping track. But again, keeping track based on what standard exchange taxonomy that's going to talk back to your system, which could be a WBS, or work breakdown structure, or something else, right? So it's like, it's as much as, it's not about standards. It does at some point come back to it.
What's also interesting is you estimate in high fidelity. Like if you're going to estimate a complex project, your drywall estimate, like of what you're going to ask the drywaller to buy, is going to have a lot of line items. But you're probably going to sign them up for one number. And so you estimate in high fidelity, then you buy it out with under an umbrella. And so now you have a contract with, these are the deliverables, but then you don't know what's driving the changes necessarily. You lose a little bit of visibility.
Well, and even waste factors and stuff like that too, right? Like things that you would just throw a 15% on, now like through historicals, can we get to like no, actually really the right percent is 13 point something, right? Because you've got the data to back that up. I mean, I think it's as much the customer asking the right questions as it is the software being able to provide the data to answer those.
Well, and even updating everyone's cost database. Most people have a cost database, but it's disconnected from whatever the market's telling you. Right? Because the market's going to tell you something different. And because those two things are disconnected, this cost database degrades very, very quickly. And this is why I said it has a lot of parallels to BuildingConnected. These subcontractor databases are disconnected to are there new players in the market? Did someone go from one company to another? And so that's the other component of how do we maintain an accurate cost database? Well, you got to connect it to what the market tells you.
See, I like this, and I've seen the magical buy it out number and then sort it around. And our field folks, are incredible at robbing Peter to pay Paul in those WBS buckets, and that's why a lot of them lump it in, because it's like, the estimator got it pretty close, always gets it pretty close, but then I shuffle it and I scrimp a little here and I overextend here, and in the end, and so this is you're kind of opening Pandora's box on that piece a little bit of wanting the fidelity coming back. But I'm also, you said this earlier. We really look at modern pre-construction as estimating, and that's not what it is. It's so much more than that now. Because you're breaking that too. So, like, I don't know. I might call you a little crazy for trying to break both of these at the same time,
I
but
mean, it's always like when I did BuildingConnected and I was 3 years in, I was like, I had no idea it was this hard. Why did I do this? Now I'm 2 years. I'm not even 2 years. Ediphi was basically been working on it for a year and 8 months, year and 9 months. And now I'm realizing, yeah, this is way harder than I thought, but it's also super exciting because the problems don't even just start with estimating. It's also like what type of estimating, and estimating occurs during various points in pre-con, and you just do different types of estimating. So an estimate is, hey, a client spitballed an idea to me and I gave him back a cost per square foot. That was an estimate. You set an expectation. Next time they come back to you with more details, they're going to know why your cost changed. And so it's telling how the cost changes over time across every milestone of pre-con. There is no good way to do that today. That's actually the biggest problem that Ediphi wants to solve, is create one consistent layer that helps the contractor tell a cost history of how a project evolves.
And so I'm interested because that is, we say this all the time. We're in the business of storytelling. Right. A project before it goes into the ground is all about storytelling, whether it's using numbers to tell the story, whether it's using building information modeling, whether it's using VR, all these tools that we're building are to try to tell the story. But we're trying to tell the story without actually giving away the main characters too much. So that's an interesting part that you're also tackling in this process.
Yeah, it's all about storytelling. Listen, our customers are the builders. And so we want to give them the tools to tell the story that they want in the way they want. And so it's about giving them more tooling, and then they choose how they want to present that information. And so it's not, we don't want to unleash Pandora's box or change the practice. They present the information to their clients in the way they think is best.
Yeah, but I do think there's like a challenger sale tactic on that you're hitting on, of like the owner just asked for, hey, I just need a cost per square foot. It's like, yes, I'm going to give you a cost per square foot, but I'm going to back it up with a little bit more of my assumptions so that when you do come back to me with your requirements, if they don't match what my assumptions are, it's an easier story to tell you as to why this number is higher, why this number is lower. And so, yeah, right. Or is there a don't tell them strategy?
We want to go even further than that. So, and now I'll tell you where I think the paradigm shift is that I am really controversial in the industry. And most of the venture market is against me on this, but I'm right.
The audacity.
I'm right. All right. So it's not about just telling the story. It's about informing the design team so they don't go off the rails of what's included in that number. So when a client says, hey, I'm thinking about this, you want to provide them the backup that tells the design team more information than they ever gave you. So, and that's the problem with a lot of estimating, is you just estimate what the customer gave you, and then it goes back to the design team uninformed to making decisions. And then you start doing this value engineering process. Well, what if we can condense pre-con by eliminating a lot of value engineering? And I'll give you an example. This is something that we actually do in Ediphi today. Is if we actually did this for a client, I can't say their name. They gave us 6 sheets and said, hey, what's this going to cost? And it's the classic, hey, multifamily development, this much gross square foot by floor, this is the unit mix by floor, and this is what the exterior skin is going to look like. Great. We were able to build out gross square footage, programmatically estimate it, the unit mix, and detail out every item that's going to be in each unit, along with like the finish schedule. And so all of those details, a detailed estimate we could do in about 2 hours. They can go back to the design team with a high fidelity estimate that they weren't expecting. Because in a traditional environment, you'd expect a schematic design would receive that level of detail. But why not take a schematic design and provide a construction document level of estimate?
Well, yeah, because in the old world, it would have been go find that benchmark project that looked close enough to that, divide it by the square footage, multiply it by the other square footage, and you got your number. But that is part of the problem, is that that would have been the most reliable number you had. And so in your situation, you're not only providing more data, but it's backing that up so that when they give you more information back, you're already having the right conversation. You're not starting off on the wrong foot.
Well, that gets to where I think the industry should go.
Yeah.
I think general contractors, I think every project really should think about. So if you study target value design, you realize cost is an input. As I know you know, and as I know, cost
ding,
is
ding,
an
ding, ding.
Instead, we start with design. Why not go to the person who understands the cost, because they talk to the market all the time. So if cost is an input, then why not start with the general contractor and give them the tools to inform the design team? And so that's how we're thinking about it. And a lot of people are investing more and more in design automation without thinking about how it should be cost. And so the generative estimate, why not generative design? Why not generative estimating that informs the design?
Yeah, I mean, that is the key component of target value design, right? It's design informs cost right now, and we actually need cost to inform design, and we actually need them both to work together, because like you said, they're inputs. And this is where I'm really hot on it, because like I think the next piece, given the other pressures we have, which are supply chain and labor and an increasing need to, not kill our environment, is that we have to incorporate new means and methods.
Yeah.
And new means and methods, constructability needs to inform design as well. It is yet another input. And in that process, and this, Dustin, like if I'm looking at bathroom pods, classic, I'm looking at bathroom pods. If I don't have those in DDs, if I don't have those before we're past 25% of our conceptual design, I'm done. It's not gonna work, right? It's past the point of no return. We have to be in at the earliest moment with certain things.
Right.
So, and I mean, the joke has always been value engineering, right? We engineer the value out of every project. So getting rid of value engineering.
Ever?
What?
It's never been value engineering.
No, it's not. It's a false term. It's just not. It's cost cutting.
Yeah.
It always is. And so I'm interested in how you would even look at, maybe means and methods, constructability starting to play a role in this, because I think connecting construction to design is hugely important, not just on cost, but on methods.
So this gets super future state. I guess we could talk about some AI and some marketplace types of things. So one of the things future states that's really interesting, and this has to do with AI as well, is all right. Everyone has a different cost database. One of the ways we are able to get people up and running more quickly is taking their cost database and using a tool we call Rosetta, and you'll quickly be able to figure out why we call it Rosetta, to translate any cost database into a known database that we can help manage in case anything else. And then we have something we call systems, which are really complex tools, basically allowing you to create structures that are higher level than assemblies, but lower level than a project template, if that makes sense to you. And so if we know what every cost database looks like across all of our customers because of Rosetta, and we can allow you to create these complex systems, we can actually allow bathroom pods to create what an estimating system for Ediphi would look like and create an estimating marketplace of these products that anyone using our cost database, or anyone using Ediphi in their own cost database, we can translate it to them for them. Does that make sense?
Back in 2020, I heard about a new software platform called Join. Within minutes of seeing Join, I knew it had the power to revolutionize collaborative project delivery. In fact, I was so sold on Join that I joined the team as its industry evangelist. Many trade shows and podcasts later, Join is now used by 50% of the ENR top 30. Why? Pre-con and ops leaders at DPR, Bolt, McCarthy, Barton Mallow, Clark, and others say that they like Join because it does two big things: collaborative, trackable decision-making, and awesomely simple visuals. Want to learn more about the power of Join? Go to www.join.build/demo to learn about how better gets built. So it does. And I have a little bit of a leg up here because you and I discussed this at a table at an event early on. And you gave me the basics of where you're going now, but you know me, I'm always poking for the future. And you kind of talked about this. And I think it's uniquely valuable that we can make a way for that to be consumable in a current cost database that's used by people who are then using cost to inform design, right? And getting powered by this, but then consuming products. We don't want to be what's Josh Bone call it? We don't want to be commoditized, but in some respects, we have to be our deliverables need to be commoditized, and we need to be consultants, right? We need that cost database to be informed so that we can consult that design team and owner. These are the ways we're going to stay on budget, and also, by the way, deliver a more high quality product. We all know things that are designed and manufactured more have a higher quality output and less waste, and we care about that. So I'm with you. I understand it, but I'm interested, Nathan, do you understand what he's talking about? Because I've had a leg up on you on that one.
I mean, yes and no. I will ask a question though, because shoot, I had a really good train of thought, but I'll keep going on it because you're coming at it from the general contractor's perspective, and I think where my head was going is there are all these different stages of the development of pre-construction and kind of these different points that you hit. And in reality, not every job is integrated project delivery or design build. And so the general contractor does come in later. So you almost have like a point in time where your only cost input is the owner or the owner's rep. And then for a while, it's only the designers. And then for a while, you've got a GC before the GC brings in real numbers from the trades. So I can see this world, where like you're creating this and using our CDX language, the gears, right? Like essentially Ediphi is creating this gear in the middle that can be that Rosetta translation for all these different inputs. But there's still that, as you're saying, like the means and methods and really getting all of those folks that we just talked about to the table to decide like, yes, this is how we're going to rethink the handoff of these responsibilities and not just dump everything on the GC or dump everything somewhere. Like, are you making any headway or is that what you're preaching to folks? Like, are we on the same page here?
I mean, our basic pitch right now is, look, estimating should be done in the cloud. The applications that are desktop applications requiring you to either log in via a Citrix server in order to gain access, or Excel spreadsheets where you're sharing Excel spreadsheets, they eventually break. We have to move away from that to even make way for some of the more innovation that we can provide. And we have to provide one clear path where everyone on the GC front, and we do work with some owner developers, things like that. Some projects start at one stage? They can pick and choose which stage because we can support every stage. Right now, if you want to do a cost model tool versus you want to do a detailed estimate, that's not done in the same system. They're completely detached.
Well, but even as like this central historical analysis kind of a thing, like you could be the intake point for just a Revit model, and a Revit model has certain things you can put your own, industry baseline costs on or whatever. And then the next stage would be, maybe there is just like conceptual Excel estimate that they can dump in, and you can figure out that translation and apply those differences. And then you get further downstream to a Timberline or something more sophisticated, but they still have to go out of their system because theirs are going to be localized into what yours is, kind of this central translator, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because look, no one can build everything. right? And so rather than, you see a lot of estimating solutions have both 2D takeoff and estimating. And we aren't providing quantification, 2D or 3D. What we're providing is tools to do estimation along the way. And we look at that as one input that drives your cost. And there's a variety of inputs that theoretically we should integrate in and make it easy for that data to come in along each step of the milestone. So that is one thing we want to get input from. Another thing that's not thought about in estimation is actually how we do our GCGRs. And I will bet you 95 to 99% it's sitting down with the superintendent project executive and putting it into an Excel spreadsheet. And then the GC puts in one number or two numbers in there.
But at least you knew it was subjective and you know who subjectively put it in, right?
Right. But then the fidelity is sometimes lost between, even if they're using a database estimating tool, like what was inclusive in that number.
We don't. And there's, again, another bit of your wizardry. I think for me, though, the thing I hope everybody heard you say is we've got to get estimating in the cloud.
We got to get estimating in the cloud.
We have to for a number of reasons, but not the least of which is it is really hard and it's the core of what we do, right? It is foundationally, you screw up an estimate, right? You can tank, one bad estimate for you can tank a lot.
Yeah.
And you can tank a company doing it truly poorly. And it's people are doing this in Excel because they don't trust things, but we need it into mechanisms too, where we can bring new people in to learn it.
Well, and Jeff, exactly what what both you and Nate have said, it's highly collaborative. Because it's part of pre-con.
And so it's not. It's supposed to be highly collaborative.
Should be.
It is.
Cloud enables. It's designed for collaboration, multi-user, and everything else.
Okay, go into any estimating shop in any GC's office where they have them in the office. They're in an open cubicle with headphones like mine on and coffee, and they don't talk to one another. They don't interact with one another. They show up with the estimate and they walk out. You know what I mean? Like, it is, and the power of cloud collaboration, passing off things and not redoing or not understanding how things were done is huge. And multiple people being able to understand and tell that same story, right? That's the other piece is, man, we have to have that. And we just don't. I mean, they are wizards right now.
They are wizards right now. And also the cloud, it enables like leveling up people faster than not being in the cloud or using Excel spreadsheets. And we got to educate this industry. Like, we don't have enough. I talk to estimators across the country. We don't have enough seasoned estimators. And we're trying to hire estimators to join our team to teach people how to estimate using Ediphi. And the talent pool is being diminished. And it's hard to learn estimating fast enough to replace like this most amazing, talented estimators you could ever come across. There's a lot of them in 30 and 40 years.
Yeah. So before you, I want to clarify something you said there. So, because it gets said the wrong way and you said it the right way, but I want to make sure they hear it, is you're not saying we have to educate this industry that they're doing things wrong.
No,
we need to yes, we need to educate the future of this industry on the wizardry. And to do so, we need to get out of the disparate systems and the wizardry of the mechanics. And educate the future. Because I do hear a lot of tech that comes from outside of the industry coming in and like, we just have to show construction how it's done. And it's like, no, you haven't been here and haven't been building. And I know that because I came in thinking some of that and went, whoa, no, I don't know anything. I need to learn this. So I wanted to clarify that before I let Nathan jump on his point.
Well, and Dustin, to your credit, I think this whole point in Excel, like, why are they using Excel in the first place? Because it's the path of least resistance. It is so complex and it is just the easiest tool for them to use. And I think what you did a really great job with BuildingConnected, and I'm sure you're working on with Ediphi, is the whole frictionless concept of like, how do you actually, put yourself in the shoes of that estimator, going through their workflows and figuring out how is this alternative workflow actually truly easier for that individual, not just better at like a higher level, corporate, we get data, whatever, like that reason will always be there. But if it's not actually easier for that individual that's doing it every day, they're not going to change. And I think that's something that you innately understand, and why I'm excited to see what comes out.
I want to follow up, Jeff, on that comment, because I see some companies come in as well that are arrogant enough to think that they know they can improve some of the things we do in construction. And the most famous example actually was the CEO of Katera. He came in and said the whole industry is going to be reinvented. And I remember talking to some of the VCs that invested in some of them that looked at investments was like, this company's going to fail. I said it then. I said it when I joined Autodesk. I had people at Autodesk said, oh, they got a bunch of smart people. No, when you have that level of arrogance and the way he talked about the industry, doomed to fail. Some of the smartest people I've ever met are superintendents that didn't graduate high school. They are logistical geniuses in how they construct and bring 200, 500 people together to assemble something that now serves, as a hospital, as mission critical. And so I think that at the very least, when you design software, realize that there's some people that know a lot.
I would fully agree with you. And I'll go even a little bit further, because there's people who run giant companies of thousands of people, right? But each one of those pretty much is shooting for some similar target. You're talking about a senior superintendent who's bringing 200 or 500 people together, and about each 50 of them have a completely different reason for being there and their own
That's a great
objectives. And you're fighting against and fighting with their objectives to get your objective done at the same time. And by the way, look around at what we build. People give us junk all the time, but look around at what we build. It's not like, I think I was looking at, it was like the new SoFi Stadium was like $2 billion. Like the new cancer facilities and research facilities and the new hospitals and campus hospitals we build are far more advanced than we ever built before. And we're asking these people to continue to build with confidence that it's going to work. Oh, but also we're like, yeah, we know how to do it better. No, you don't.
No, yeah.
But we could hope to help them do it easier. Like, to use Nathan's term, for it to be frictionless. And I mean, this is where I want you to kind of talk about the future as we wrap it up, is like, how can we connect that? Because too much of that knowledge is leaving. I'll go to a Josh Bone here again. If you listen on the recent Procore podcast, you can hear this with Josh, is that, we're looking at this 2038, 57% of our craft workforce will be gone.
Yeah.
But the crazy part about that is 25% of them through retirement will be gone by the end of 2025. This is clear and present danger. How do we, through great planning and pre-construction, capture that knowledge, codify what they're doing into what we do? Is it even possible?
I've honestly never been asked that question from the labor perspective. I've been asked that it's more like the knowledge perspective of the people back of office. But that's a very interesting thing. I guess my initial reaction would be actually connecting what you're doing in pre-con with what you're doing in project management, so we understand explicitly what went wrong in between your estimate, your buyout, and why was there cost escalation, so that we can better estimate in the future, so that you get projects can be executed on more easily. And so that would, because if you can execute on a project more easily, it requires less workforce, less rework, less change orders, and rework is really expensive, really labor intensive, and just is harder. That would be my initial reaction.
And see, I see a path here too with exactly what you're building. If we can take a lot of them are retiring too, because if you think about what I said, 200 to 500 people that are pulling in all different directions, and you're trying to wrangle them and get them to build something, it's difficult. And a lot of them are retiring out because of the environment they're in. Many of them are not done. Mm-hmm. So if we can teach them soon the value of collecting the data of what they're doing, and connect them to the back office and inform our estimators, because a lot of our new estimators that we're recruiting are just not going to have that experience, right? They don't know how to build it. It's one of the biggest problems for people doing detailing and drawing.
Estimators really don't know how to build. Like they don't know how to construct it physically.
No,
they know what it costs, production rates.
Yeah, but now connecting the two together, we give this opportunity for someone to maybe extend their career a little bit, give us knowledge. And then, by the way, through the modern tools that we've created outside of what you're creating, but others have for, zooming into a site and seeing 360 reality capture, and informing someone, hey, when we've seen this before, here's some of the things I want you to be looking for.
Yeah. Those risk management AI tools, I think, will play a huge impact in the future, and that's one of the things that we actually presented a client that we can do. It's like, as you're estimating, like what I mean, you're never worried about what you estimated. You're worried about what you didn't estimate. What did I leave out? Right.
That is one of the most powerful things, Nathan, we ever heard was as a Kurt. It's like every single line in a contract is all past looking. It's something that's already happened to it. It's not telling us what could happen next. And that's where we actually need to be focused. So you're talking about the same thing in estimating. Exactly. It's not what I knew I had. It's what didn't I know?
Exactly. Or what should I have assumed? Right. What usually it's what's not shown in the drawings, but you have to infer because you own means and methods to get it done.
Yeah.
That just got real meta.
I mean, well, you talk about educating the estimators. They can do quantity takeoff just fine. Like, you can be a college graduate and start drawing lines, right, and clicking around. But they don't know what else it takes to support what's shown in the drawings and see the project through.
Yeah, that's powerful. So last opportunity. Anything, and by the way, I'm surprised that the investors think you're wrong on your original statement. So I want you to give something else controversial as you walk out the door, and then let everybody know where to go find out more about Ediphi, because I'm excited. I've got a lot of friends that are giving me in the pre-con world, giving me a lot of feedback on it. So
controversial on the fly.
Yeah. Not even controversial, just something for people to be aware of that they might not think of. It doesn't have to be controversial. Just
I'll say this, and it's controversial in society today. But to solve the labor shortage, I think we need a cultural shift that being a construction worker is a fantastic career and should be promoted and celebrated.
Yeah.
Because you can make a ton of money and people don't consider it. And I think that's a cultural shift, and so thereby being controversial.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's funny because you talk about your mechanical and aeronautical engineering degree. I just talked to another young student, just came out as a mechanical engineering degree, had no idea we were an opportunity. And I'm like, we are the most foundational opportunity, and we should be hitting them, and we should be hitting kids as they come out of high school. We should be hitting them when they're little.
Yes.
Yeah. Before they go to college.
Yeah. You don't have to go to college.
No.
So many people are getting in debt. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And you can always go back. There's this belief that I'm 18. I have to go right to college. No. In fact, I probably would have been better with a gap year myself. I have a major in biology, a minor in psychology and chemistry. And I'm a podcaster in the construction tech space.
What do they say? Something like 80% of college students don't use their degree. So I mean, it's clearly a bad institution if 80% of the people do it. Like, if that was, you would almost call it a scam.
That's true. I mean, I left my engineering schooling knowing I wasn't going to go get a professional engineering license. I was going to go work for a contractor.
But hey,
I feel like we're on the verge of getting political. Let's not do that.
Yeah, we better cut this short.
We better cut that. So where can people go learn more about Ediphi?
Ediphi.com. So it's ediphi.com, or find me on LinkedIn, Dustin DeVan. Feel free to hit me up and send me a connection. And we'd love to talk. I always say, in fact, I said it to a customer the other day, if you don't think we're providing value in helping you either win more work or save time, then I absolutely wouldn't encourage you to buy us. But I think we're solving real problems in a very unique way.
I think you're right. And I think you're really doing a good job of now articulating it. And I know the team is out there working really hard. So
Yeah.
it's been awesome to see you guys go through the growth, and excited to see you on the road somewhere maybe next year. I know you guys are going to be out on the road a bunch.
Advancing pre-con, we will have a lot of representation.
Hey, it's the biggest event. It's the biggest pre-con event there is, and it's helping change pre-construction. And it's cool to see all the new tools coming in. Thank you for sitting down with me, Nathan. Dustin, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. It's been too long, man.
Way too long. Nathan, way too long.
Oh, looking forward to seeing you on the road, man. Good to see you back in the industry.
And thank you for tuning in today to geek out for our interview with Dustin DeVan. To read all our news stories, learn more about our guests, and to listen to this show, visit thecontechcrew.com. This is the ConTech Crew signing out. Until next time, enjoy the ride and geek out.